All right, good evening, folks. Welcome to Monday Night Law here at Kirk's Law Corner. How's everybody doing out there tonight? I'm feeling a little bit better. Thank you all for your prayers, your kind words. I greatly appreciate it. Been a little rough. Been feeling a little bit better, finally. After the last couple of days now, starting to finally feel better. But good old weather change and I don't know. Maybe some crap sprayed in the air. All that good fancy stuff. Just felt like crap for about a week. A little over a week. Sore throat, coughing, all that good stuff. So hope everybody's all excited and ready for the election results. Tomorrow's the day. Going to be quite interesting. What actually all happens, how this all goes down. Military's on the ready. FBI's on the ready. Could be a very interesting times. Everybody got audio check here. Make sure everything's working. I think it's working. Okay. YouTube, you all good? Thank you, Third Eye Knowledge. Good to see you, James. Okay, good over on Telegram, Rumble. Good to go, good to go. Thank you all. Rock the free world. Good to see you, brother. All right, 5x5. Thank you again out there on YouTube. Still got a little bit of a cough, but at least I don't have snot running down my face and excessive coughing and headache and body ache and just feeling like crap. I didn't think anybody really wanted to see that last week, so I hem-hawed about it, back and forth about doing it, but I just wasn't, I wasn't doing good, so. So, back to the exciting times that we're in right now. Definitely some crazy stuff going on, and I've been seeing some stuff about finding some of that election interference stuff already. Stuff that's been going to court. I know that's a sensitive topic out here, mostly on YouTube, but we will see what kind of mess this all turns into. But as it's been said many times now, too big to rig. There are more people out there today that are going to vote or already have voted, that are going to vote this election cycle than probably in all of history. Now, we had a hell of a voter turnout 4 years ago. It's going to be exponential this time. There's all sorts of Uh, different kinds of people that have never even thought about voting before are voting now, that are qualified to vote. And then we also have foreign invaders. That may be trying to vote, but that'll get resolved, I'm pretty sure. But, I mean, look at the candidates. Who's your choice? What are the choices out there? It ain't very good. Except for Trump. And for those that have a hard time comprehending and understanding what's really going on, well, that's because you haven't paid attention. And what I mean by paid attention is actually do some actual research. And aside from listening to your so-called favorite mainstream media basically, they don't put out the real truth. They don't put out the whole truth. There's a lot of stuff that has happened that never makes it to mainstream media. Like, for example, did you know that Trump has been invading foreign countries, nation states, and taking down corrupt governmental regimes, instituting new government, and holding real fair elections over there, and then doing a treaty of peace? Did you know that? That has never made it into the mainstream media news, right? Did you ever hear that out there on the mainstream media, that Trump's been doing treaties of peace? How do you do a treaty of peace if we're not at war? We are, in fact, at world war. This is World War III. This is what it looks like, folks. It's not like the olden days where it's a little bit more visible, like tanks rolling down the streets and, gunfire going off all the time. And we haven't had that physical type of a war in our face since the Civil War in 1863. This is a different kind of war. One, it's an information war. But this particular war that we're in right now has an effect on global currency, global military, global government. And don't forget about the pedophiles, pedophilia, satanic rituals. A lot of stuff going on underground. Did you catch that in the mainstream media news there? Did you catch the thing about P. Diddy and the people they found in cages underneath the ground? Underneath his place there? Nah, I didn't catch that on mainstream media either. Absolutely right, James. This is the good versus evil. Some may say this is biblical. Well, yes and no. Got to remember, certain people rewrote the Bible. Okay? So, don't always believe everything that you read. And then, don't you think these people have read the Bible? So some things are being forced to make it look like it's biblical. And I'm not saying that it's not. I'm just saying they've read it too, and they can, act things out to trick people. But the truth is, Executive Order 13818 does actually exist. That's December 20th of 2017. Now, I've been covering that stuff ever since it came out. I've explained this many, many, many times now. Things are changing. Rule of law been reestablished. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, as the bedrock of the law of this nation. That is coming back. The common law is coming back. We're all going to need to relearn real law. Some will say, oh, it's constitutional law. No. We're talking about fundamental law. This comes before the Constitution. Like in Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law of England, which I've covered on here, about the three primary fundamental laws, fundamental jurisdictions, which is Roman civil law, the code, feudal law, and common law. Those are your three jurisdictions or types of fundamental law. Now, during the Reconstruction era here in America is when they altered the fundamental law from the common law to Roman civil law, the code, with the Code of Civil Procedure Act. Congress did it in 1873. Idaho did it in 1881. I have the proof of this. Okay? Now, my brother Rob over there found something clear back in 1850s there. I think it was 1854 or something like that. In New York. Had already switched over to the Roman civil law, the code. And, you know, it's in the Declaration of Independence. And I think maybe, let's just take a look here. I think maybe a reading of the Declaration of Independence might actually help. Because what is said in the Declaration of Independence, directly relating to this jurisdiction. Hey, look, there's Blackstone's Commentaries on the Laws of England. avalon.law.yale.edu. Highly recommend reading that. Supreme Court's been citing from that lately. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another to assume, what? Among the powers of the earth, the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind, requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. That's what this Declaration of Independence is. It is declaring the causes for the separation. The Lee's Resolution, which was June 7th, 1776, is actually the document that separates us from Great Britain. This is declaring the causes for the separation. The declared acts of tyranny. Okay? That's what the Declaration of Independence is. Declaring the acts of tyranny. Reasons why. But it also kind of declares the law. Because that's how law is laid down. Through declarations. We hold these truths to be self-evident. This is common sense, fundamental law. The laws of nature. Everybody is supposed to just naturally, fundamentally, and principally know this. This doesn't actually need to be written. This should already be in our minds. We should already just common sense. That's what self-evident means. Okay? We should already know this. That all men, not persons, are created equal. Okay? Men are created. What are they created by? That they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Okay? Endowed by the Creator. The Creator is the sovereign. The sovereign has the power to create. Clearly, the sovereign, God, the Creator, nature's God, created all men. And He created mankind. What kind of man are you? Are you a man or a man with a womb? There are only two kinds of man. So, what are these certain unalienable rights? That among these are life. Now it says that among these. This is not a full list of the rights. Are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Sister, good to see you. Man, been waiting for your phone call. I know you've been busy. Glad to see you're on here tonight. Now, question was asked on Thursday night there on the call, National Assembly call, about this pursuit of happiness. And I have done a little bit of research on that because I was like, oh, well, what is pursuit of happiness in my own endeavors, right? Long before this, long before Thursday night. And what I did find was that it was about property. Now, in reading Blackstone's commentaries on the law of England and my students, which I've been hammering this home to them, I believe most of them get it by now. But I keep asking, what are the three primary, absolute rights from the laws of nature? We would think life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, because that's the among these that they have enumerated here in this declaration. But according to Blackstone, it is called personal security. Then you have personal liberty and private property. The right to acquire, possess, and utilize our private property how we see fit. And none of these rights can be deprived except for by and through the law of the land. Not by a statute, not by the code. The code is a foreign law, foreign jurisdiction. It doesn't belong here. Now, there's another part to that pursuit of happiness, is actually pursuing whatever makes you happy. Okay? Now, this next part of the Declaration of Independence is the intent of creating government. What does it say? That to secure these rights. Okay? What we're talking about is Creator endowed rights. Those unalienable rights. You cannot place a lien upon them, because even the word property starts off with an aggregate of guaranteed rights. They're guaranteed because they come from God, not from man. And a lien is on property or rights are being held, right? That's exactly what they're talking about here. No, you do not get to put a lien on our property, our rights. But the intent here, right? Governments are instituted among men. not kings, no titles of nobility, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Okay? So they only have these powers with consent. Where is that consent given? It is given by Constitution. Now, this is what was going on then, right? That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people, not American state nationals, to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles. Right? Principles are immutable. Again, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. The plus sign, the minus sign, the multiplication sign, the division sign. Those are the four primary absolute principles of mathematics that dictate the correct answer every time, regardless of our feelings or opinions. That's why they're called principles. They're immutable. You cannot alter them. Imagine altering what the plus sign or minus sign or the multiplication sign or division sign actually means and the effects of it. It would totally destroy mathematics. So that's why they are principles. But what is the foundation of such principles here? And organizing its powers on such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate the governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. So, what's being said here is that mankind would rather sit here and suffer, bitch and moan and complain about how corrupt things are than to do something about it. Than to right themselves and abolish it. We the people have that power. The problem is mankind doesn't know how to assemble the people. All political power is inherent in the people. The people need to reassemble. We need to peaceably assemble, to consult for our common good, so that we can exercise the right of political power and that we can abolish this corruption. Granted, I get it. Trump is working on it, right? Military's working on it on the world stage. But ultimately, that power belongs to us, the people. We have to do this. Mankind needs to bring forth the people. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism. Listen up close, folks. It is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. So I'm going to reiterate this again. It's not just a right, it's a duty. This us, mankind. Trump already told us that he was putting the power back into the people's hands. This is the power he's referring to. We got to do this, folks. We have to reassemble government de jure, lawful government of the people, by the people, and for the people. That is the republic, the Confederate Republic that our founders created here. This is a Confederate Republic, not a representative republic, not a representative democracy. Okay, we're not a democracy. We're not a democratic republic. We're a Confederate Republic. That's the form of government that our founders declared, laid down, ordained, and established. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. These are facts of things that were going on back in 1776. He has refused his assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. So, in 1621, with the Ordinance of Virginia, they started a new form of government over here, away from the monarchy. Okay? This all started in 1621. And it took 156 years to get to this Declaration of Independence. It had enough. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. So there would be things that were being passed by the General Assembly, the legislative branch, and go up for the governor, and then the governor can't do it because you got to have the king's assent. Well, no, it can't have that because it sets the people free. Can't have that. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. So, again, what was actually happening is stripping the king of his powers over the people. And ultimately what was happening was the king was seeing that he was losing the grip on America, the Americans. And so what did he do? We'll see that right here. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. Now remember, they didn't have computers and digital devices and that kind of stuff back then. They didn't have flash drives and laptops and cell phones, okay? All this stuff was kept in safes and file boxes and that kind of stuff, okay? And so he would call them over there, overseas especially, and fatigue them, right? To get them to comply with what they want, with what the king wanted. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing, with manly firmness, his invasions on the rights of the people. So, when the houses, right, what we recognize today as the House of Representatives and the Senate, are actually the House, or separate houses, but it is the House. He was literally dissolving those elected representatives by the people, especially those that said no, for opposing with manly firmness, said no, we're not doing that. We're not going to deprive the rights of the people. These principles, fundamental principles of law, rights as the law. He has refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected. So he would dissolve the houses and refuse to allow people to be replaced by elections, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining, in the meantime, exposed to all the dangers of invasions from without and convulsions within, because it didn't have a legislative body to take care of that. Purposeful tactics, usurpation of power, subversion of law, treason, tyranny. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migration hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. So he's just doing all sorts of crazy stuff to keep it from growing and expanding. Because he was getting out of control. He was losing his powers and grip. He obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers, while his redcoats are over here. Oh, and don't forget the blue coats. That's right. Red coats and blue coats. Oh, that would be that like that Republican and Democrat. Red coats and blue coats. Couldn't hold them responsible because we couldn't set up our own judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment for their salaries. So, when you're the one that's paying them, putting food on the table and a roof over their head, and the land that they live on, well, they're kind of controlled. It's like controlled opposition. Here's one of the kickers. He's erected a multitude of new offices and set hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. That would be that, what we call police officer. In Old English, it's actually pronounced policy. Sound it out. P-O-L-I-C-E. Policy. Now, we spell it with a Y today. That's modern English. A-E-I-O-U and sometimes Y. Y could fit the place of an A-E-I-O-U, right? That's the English language. What is this? Kept among us in times of peace, standing armies. Them policy officers, without the consent of our legislatures. Now, that's why it goes back up here about destroying the legislature. So, because that's supposed to be the power of the legislature. He has effected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power, to the people. Imagine that. He is combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, given his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. Now, what jurisdiction are they talking about here? Would that be that Roman civil law, the code? Absolutely. That's a foreign jurisdiction. It's foreign to our Constitution. It's unacknowledged by our laws. It's a fundamental law. Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law of England breaks that down. It was a foreign jurisdiction in England at this time. Ha. I'll be darned, it's right here in the Declaration of Independence. And look at what it's actually talking about. Erected a multitude of new offices, set in hideous forms of office to harass our people and eat out their substance, enforcing this pretended legislation. It's a foreign jurisdiction. See, in Bouvet's Law Dictionary, 1856, talks about law, comma, civil, is the Roman civil law, the code, and it's all enforced by bills of attainder. So they make up this pretended legislation, saying, well, if you do this, that's a crime, whether it's a felony or a misdemeanor. If it was a felony, they called it bills of attainder. If it was a misdemeanor, they call it bill of pains and penalties. But it actually says the entire code is all enforced by bills of pains and penalties. Now, Bouvet's Law Dictionary actually defines a bill of attainder as legislation, comma, punishment, period. So any legislation that prescribes punishment is a bill of attainder or bill of pains and penalties. Is there any legislation out there today, especially in the code, that prescribes a punishment? That says this is a crime and here's a fine or jail time? Hello? United States Code. Idaho Code. Code. Roman civil law. Foreign jurisdiction. Fundamental law. They altered the fundamental law from the common law to the Roman civil law, the code. And what did he do? For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states. Notice the words, inhabitants. Doesn't say American state national, does it? Oh, hi Karen over here on Telegram. Yeah, you know it over there on YouTube. So shout out to all those over there on YouTube that usually talk with Karen. I guess she's having a problem on YouTube. Wanting to say hi. So I know she usually talks to like Mark Bond, James, a few other people over there. So cross-platform shout-out from Karen, folks. Now, this is what happens today, right? I mean, let's just take it as it is. Punishment for any murders. You know, the police over here been murdering people. And what do they do? Well, we've conducted our own internal investigation and found no fault of the officer. That's the Fox Garden hen house. And who is it done by? A police officer acting under the code. Well, the code says, yeah, but the law of the land says, let's see, back to Bouvet's Law Dictionary 1856, that the Roman civil law, the code, is opposed to the law of nation, the laws of nature, and the common law. That's right, because it's a foreign jurisdiction, foreign body of law. That's what jurisdiction means. Juris is law, diction is words. It's a body of law. It also can be a territory, a place. But fundamentally and principally, juris is law, diction is words. So, this is where we go, what kind of law is this? Oh, it's a fundamental law. Like law of the land type fundamental law. Not to be confused with out on the water. Right? That's maritime. Admiralty jurisdiction is military. Admiral, military. Commander-in-chief. That's that, what? Has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. That's that extending admiralty jurisdiction and vice-admiralty jurisdiction beyond its ancient limits that's enumerated in the Declaration for the Cause and Necessity of Taking Up Arms in 1775, a year earlier. Right here, July 6, 1775. Almost exactly 1 year earlier. Let's see, where is it? Publicly declared that these colonies now... Here it is, a year prior, they're talking about the same thing, right? Parliament was influenced to adopt the pernicious project and assuming a new power over them. That's that Roman civil law, the code. Have in the course of 11 years given such precise specimens of the spirit and consequences attending this power as to leave no doubt concerning the effects of the acquiescence under it. They have undertaken to give and grant our money without our consent, though we have never exercised an exclusive right to dispose of our own property. Statutes have been passed for extending the jurisdiction of courts of admiralty and vice-admiralty beyond their ancient limits, for depriving us of the accustomed and estimable privilege of trial by jury in cases affecting both life and property, for suspending the legislature of one of the colonies, for interdicting all commerce to the capital of another. Well, you got to have a driver's license. You got to have registration. You got to have insurance. You got to have an emissions test. You got to have this. You got to have that. That's interdicting all commerce onto the people. You're welcome, Karen. How about, and for altering fundamentally the form of government established by charter and secured by acts of its own legislature solemnly confirmed by the crown. This is that pernicious project. He changed his councils and about that, huh? For exempting the murderers of colonists from legal trial and, in effect, from punishment. For erecting in the neighboring province, acquired by the joint arms of Great Britain and America, a despotism dangerous to our very existence. And for quartering soldiers upon the colonists in time of profound peace, policy officers. But why should we enumerate all our injuries in detail? By one statute it is declared that Parliament can, of right, make laws to bind us in all cases whatsoever. Just one simple statute and completely alter everything. What is to defend us against so enormous, so unlimited a power? Not a single man of those who assume it is chosen by us, or is subject to our control or influence. But on the contrary, they are all of them exempt from the operation of such laws, and an American revenue, if not diverted from the ostensible purposes for which it was raised, would actually lighten their own burdens in proportion as they increase ours. We saw the misery to which such despotism would reduce us. We for 10 years incessantly and effectually besieged the throne as supplicants. We reasoned, we remonstrated with Parliament in the most mild and decent language. Protested. That's when they protested. Remonstrances. They also petitioned. They'd had enough and they took up arms. And this is the declaration for the causes and necessity of taking up arms, July 6, 1775. It's the same stuff. This is the Revolutionary War. But this is what they call, a double standard here. Two-tiered system is what they're calling it, but it's actually called a double standard. Well, it's a law for thee, not for me. It only applies to you. It doesn't apply to us. Wonder why our founders wrote the Second Amendment the way they did? That the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, so that we could defend ourselves from tyranny. That is the intent of the Second Amendment. The first part is a well-regulated militia, being necessary for the security of a free state. Remember, the militia is composed of the body of the people themselves. The people. We, the people, provide for the common defense. The organized or well-regulated militia is the military. The military is supposed to be subordinate to the civil power, to us, the people. Which is why the second part of the Second Amendment says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. There's no legislative authority. None. This means all legislation regarding the Second Amendment, our right to keep and bear arms, is unlawful. Why didn't the Supreme Court just say that? I don't get it. It's just that simple. There's a lack of personal jurisdiction. There's a lack of subject matter jurisdiction. Period. End of discussion. There's no evidence that says, well, Congress has the authority to make legislation about our right to keep and bear arms. None. There's no clause in any part of the Constitution that says that. Brother Art, good to see you, brother. Hope you're doing all right out there. Oh boy. Found out that the judge and the DA in your oath of office case that Art's got going on out there is on our oath. Didn't even know what bills of pains and penalties and bills of attainder were. Back to the Declaration of Independence, because a lot of what was just said right here is in the Declaration of Independence. Imagine that. For cutting off our trade with all parts of the world. For imposing taxes on us without our consent. For depriving us, in many cases, the benefits of trial by a jury. For transporting us beyond the seas to be tried for pretended offenses. Back to that trial by jury, supposed to be done through a grand jury indictment first. How many people out there have been subjected to a case, so-called crimes that you've committed, without a grand jury indictment? whether it be a felony or a misdemeanor. Article the 5th of the Bill of Rights, or sometimes referred to as the Fifth Amendment, says in all crimes, capital or infamous crimes shall have a grand jury indictment, a presentment or indictment of a grand jury. That's the law as it is written. Okay, that's in the Bill of Rights, a Declaration of Rights, which is merely declaratory of the common law. It's already the law before the Bill of Rights. Been that way for a long time prior to the Bill of Rights of 1791. For abolishing the free system of English laws in neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries, so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies. That's that damn code again. Roman civil law, the code. Code. You know, think about it. Code. Somebody speaks in code, and it happens often in, like, say, military and exercises and that kind of stuff. Even, like, pilots and that kind of stuff speak in code. There's a code out there that's called Morse code. M-O-R-S-E. You know, okay. It's called a cipher. In order to decipher the code, you have to have a cipher. So what's the cipher for the code? There isn't. It's all just shit made up by the king and his cronies. That's what they're talking about, that absolute rule into these colonies again. Back to that foreign jurisdiction. And unacknowledged by our laws, the common law. For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments. This is not the first time we've been here. Same thing with the Magna Carta 1215. It was happening back then. For suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever, because that's what the code does. Right? We don't have a separation between suits at common law, Article the 7th of the Bill of Rights, sometimes referred to as the 7th Amendment, and Article 3, Section 2, suits in law. In law versus at common law. There is a difference. And the only jurisdiction that's enumerated in the Supreme Law of the Land Constitution there is Admiralty and Maritime Jurisdiction. That is a suit in law. In commerce, trade, traffic. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection, waging war against us. This is what we call domestic violence, pursuant to Article 4, Section 4. Domestic violence is that internal insurrection, an attempt to overthrow the Constitution and war against the people. That is domestic violence. That's what our founders meant by domestic violence, pursuant to Article 4, Section 4. Not this so-called family law crap. Domestic relations. That's not what domestic violence means. But again, that's what they're doing. That's what's happening, right? Since 1994 with the Violence Against Women and Children Act Congress passed. Does Congress have the authority to redefine what domestic violence is pursuant to Article 4, Section 4? Where does it say that? Can you point to that emolument and grunt? I don't see it. Hey, James, Karen is over here on Telegram. She's banned on YouTube right now, so she's over here on my Telegram channel. I already put a shout out from Karen to you guys over there. She's said hi. So James, just so you know, she's over here. But, you know, what are they doing there? They're using women and children as human shields, right? Weaponized family courts. That's what we called them. Chris and I and Nathan Altenhoff, and that's what we called them back then. Weaponized family courts. Back in 2017. It's funny how that stuff, that verbiage, weaponized government, weaponized family courts, weaponized government, seems to be a common phrase today. But it wasn't before we started talking about it in 2017, putting it on paperwork and calling it out, sending it to Congress in the form of a petition for the redress of grievances. So this one here, for spending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. Can anybody out there tell me that they've exercised their right to a suit at common law without any legislation? Because suits at common law go off the common law, and the rules of the common law. It has nothing to do with any statutes. Absolutely nothing. That's because it's a suit at common law, not a suit in law, statutory law, so-called law, statutes, policy. He's plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burned our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of, foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy, scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy the head of a civilization. Foreign mercenaries. Large armies of foreign mercenaries. This is a foreign invasion, folks. Yeah. Oh, you're over here on YouTube, eh, Karen? You made it over there, huh? You must have created another account or something. Huh. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioner of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their own hands, or by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrection among us. Domestic insurrection, domestic violence, internal insurrection. And has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare in an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. That's also the known rule of warfare of a monarchy. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. If we're going to be free, we don't have rulers. No titles of nobility. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8. No titles of nobility here, folks. These are all declared acts of tyranny. If you're not aware of most all of what this declares as a declared act of tyranny is happening again today, man, what frickin' rock have you been hiding under? Nor have we been wanting in our attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them, from time to time, of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here, which was what? What was the reasons why they came and settled here? Clear back to the Magna Carta 1215. Religious freedom, separation from the Roman Catholic Church. Facts, reality, truth. That is the truth. To get away from the Roman Catholicism, Roman Catholic Church. The Christian Protestants trying to separate from the Roman Catholic Church and Catholicism as an ideology. See, under Christianity, the ideology of Christianity is we're all what? Created by God, and we're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. Not under Catholicism. We're supposed to have rulers and kings and queens and princes, and you have to bow down to them and serve them. But the Ten Commandments says we're not supposed to have any other gods before thee, before him. We're supposed to serve God, not a king, not a queen, not a prince. No titles, those are titles of nobility. Same thing with esquire. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, logic and reason. And we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. I spelled that one. Say that one 3 times fast. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind. Enemies in war, in peace, friends. I can tell you right now, folks, in reading from history, this has been a perpetual war for as far back as I can read. And that's about 400 AD. Now, unless you get into biblical stuff, but even this stuff has been happening before that. We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world, God, for the rectitude of our intentions do in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies, there's the Confederation right there, are and of right ought to be what? Free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have the full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all the other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the what? Support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Now, this is what it means to become one of the people. We do this. This is what actually happens when we reassemble. There's a document. There's an oath that needs to be taken. And there's a vow. It's oh my gosh, covenant. A covenant and an oath. The covenant is between man and God, just like marriage, a sacred vow or covenant between a man and a woman unto God, till death do them part. So a covenant with God is to uphold the law, God's law, to ensure the Christian ideology, which is where Christians believe that all men are created free and independent of all things created by their fellow man, that we're endowed by our Creator from the laws of nature, these fundamental, absolute rights. They're unalterable. They're principles, fundamental. That all mankind has these rights. And that none of those rights can be deprived except for through the law of the land. Not by legislation made by man. Although, in a way, the Constitution is made by man. But it's just, right? To a certain extent. Till it gets all amended, and they change it, and they alter it. So, and then we have an oath, which is from the Bible. An oath is, and it's also a maxim of law, which comes from the Bible. Imagine that. Fundamental principles, the rule of law, maxim of law, come from the Bible. That an oath, there's no firmer bond among men than an oath. That's the reason why in Article 6, Clause 3, that we, the people, require everyone, both state and federal, legislative, executive, judicial branch of government, whether it's state or federal, are required by the people to be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. So, this is what creates that pledge to each other of our lives, that we're going to defend them. Our fortunes is those who have excessive fortunes help support. And our sacred honor, which means that we have integrity, virtue, morals, principles. That even in secret, behind closed doors, we are an honorable man or woman. Because we're acting in reverence to God, the creator of all things. That's the sacred honor. That you don't stab your fellow man in the back behind closed doors. Talk bad about him over here and then talk nice to him to their face over there. That you do the right thing, integrity, all the time. So, this is, oh my gosh. Where are we at here? National Assembly. National-assembly.net. Oh, I'm surprised you don't have a link to the other side. Other site. Alright, so Thursday nights, we are peaceably assembling. And we have an educational call on Thursday nights, every Thursday night. 6 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Alright, now here's the meeting info. If you want to call in. But I highly recommend downloading and installing the free conference call. It's actually called Free Conference Call. That is the app. Whether it's on your phone, whether it's on your tablet, your laptop, your desktop. Okay, there's 2 tutorial videos here. Here's the one for smartphones on YouTube. Here's the one for your desktop, laptops, and others. Here is the link to the meeting. Once you have that free conference call, all you do is you click on that link right there. Okay? Now, what was the website there? I've been slipping. How come I don't remember this sucker? It's something about restore. I think there it is. Restore-america.org. I think I figured it out. Now be careful here because it's restore-america.org or dash. Some people say dash, but it's called hyphen. This is the new website. And I'm not sure who actually put this together, but again, I want to thank them for doing this because this is a lot more user-friendly than the national-assembly.net website. And this is a new website. I mean, this has barely been up for a month. So, this is where we're sending people now to get started. It's a lot more, like I said, user-friendly. Okay? And it even has the stuff on here as well. It looks like a short little 1-minute video. So that's cool. There we go. It finally came up. Restore America. Interest form. Are you interested? Are you interested in becoming one of the people of your territory? and reassembling government de jure, claiming and exercising our political rights, our political power, the right to alter, reform, or abolish anything at any time we deem it necessary. Are you interested in pledging your life, your fortune, and your sacred honor? I know that's a lot to ask. But America needs you. Mankind needs you. And I can tell you right now, in America, we're the last stand. We're it, folks. There are many different nation states, countries around the world that follow what we do here in America. Well, Art, this is it right here. How do we properly assemble the unorganized militia and have it recognized in each county? This right here. You've got to do the covenant and oath. The people is the militia. You have to become one of the people. Otherwise, technically speaking, if it's unorganized, and think about this for a second, from the laws of nature, as the Supreme Court in the New York State Rifle Pistol Association versus Bruin case of June of 2022 has already given their opinion in citing Blackstone's commentaries on the law of England that the right to keep and bear arms comes from nature as the fundamental right of self-defense. And like I previously stated in this video tonight's episode, that what was the founders' intent of writing the Second Amendment? That the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It is to defend against tyranny. Every able-bodied male between the age of 18 to 64 is automatically in the unorganized portion of the militia. What does that mean, unorganized? It means not part of government. As in governmental power regulations. A well-regulated militia, the well-regulated militia is the military, state and federal, Army and the Navy. That's the organized by government, well-regulated militia. Okay? Otherwise, we the people live at the common law, the laws of nature. And fundamentally and principally, we already have this right from nature. The right of self-defense, the right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. We have to be able to defend that. So, it's not so much as recognized by the county. As we used to say in the 90s, you better recognize. So, that's the key to that, folks, is what law are we actually referring to here? We're referring to the laws of nature. This doesn't have anything to do with the Constitution. Okay? We have to fully comprehend that there's a body of law that is supposed to be fundamental that has nothing to do with government. Well, as in the authority to alter it, to amend it, to change it. So, if you are interested, please fill that out right there. Now, if this does not pop up for you, it's down here at the very bottom. Right on the home page. Now, I want to put that out there to the couple of people for Idaho that have signed up on here. I did finally get a notification over there on my Proton mail, which they have that registered through here somehow. It's just coming over there. So when somebody from Idaho comes on here, that goes directly to me. I am the Idaho coordinator. I am coordinating the efforts to reassemble government de jure here in Idaho. So, again, for those in Idaho, please sign up on here. Get a hold of me. If you're interested in reassembling lawful government de jure, doing this lawfully, having the support of the military, and what I mean by that is the Trump administration, real military, not the military-industrial complex. Things are changing, folks, and we're all about to be forced to see it. Because it's that 7-year plan, in my mind, is just about to its end. Based on the executive order 13818, is about taking down corrupt governmental regimes, corrupt government, and instituting new guards for our security and safety. Remember, we're under a continuity of government. This is provisional government pending the outcome of the war. That's Texas v. White, under Article 4, Section 4, the powers of the Commander-in-Chief to set up provisional government pending the outcome of the war. We're at war. That's what a continuity of government means. Provisional government. All right, so this is what we're looking for. We're looking for mankind to pledge their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. We, the people, become one of the people. And just so you folks are aware out there, if you've done any of that Anna Von Reitz, David Straight, any of that stuff, trying to supposedly correct your status, it's all a fraud. You can't be a part of this. That's all part of the Roman civil law, the code. It's all a bunch of trickery to get people back in under the Roman civil law, under the crown. Okay? So, I apologize to those, although that's not my place to apologize, but I'm just saying that you've been duped. You were lied to. And it's unfortunate, but here's the thing. And we've kind of had a few discussions on this, is what can we do after? It's going to have to be after we reassemble. So, unfortunately, no, you cannot be part of the breaking ground, the groundwork of this, at the root of this. Because you've already declared your status under Roman civil law, the code. Now, if you haven't done that, and had anything to do with any of that repudiation and all that crazy crap from Anna Von Reitz, David Straight, any of those other people out there, if it isn't through these guys, national-assembly.net, it isn't legitimate. I know, there's a lot of people out there that think they know what they're doing, they know what they're talking about, but they're not following the law. These folks have the support of the military. They've also done, here's your telltale sign. What have you guys done in your endeavors there, right? Have you done anything like, 21 requisitions? Like Michigan did? Because Michigan's already assembled. Long time ago. Issued 21 requisitions to Joint Chiefs, Judge Advocate General, and the Pentagon, December of 2011, resulting in putting Trump into presidency, Space Force, and much more. stopped Obama from going into Syria with boots on the ground September of 2013, voiding the Act of 1871, causing the Queen to lose her power, and Trump walking in front of her, inspecting the Queen's military. Yeah. Has any of your other people out there so claiming they have these powers, have they done any of this? Back into military control. Voiding the Act of 1871. Alaska with unrebutted original nation-state settlement, November 5th of 2020. Here we go. Is there any other group that can claim anything like this? One can only teach from experience, and we haven't. All we have seen from other groups is people getting nowhere or ending up in jail. Okay? So I highly, highly, highly recommend, if this is what you truly want to do, to pledge your lives, your fortunes, and your sacred honor, is to get involved with what we have going on here. All right, you're not listening to me weekly? Why not, brother? Glad to see you on here, brother. So just to reiterate this here, when you do this here, it's going to send it over to somebody, especially for those of us that have coordinators and communication secretaries and that kind of stuff, that have an email set up that's already plugged into this, so we'll get a notification. Okay? Otherwise, somebody will get back with you if there's not. So there are certain territories that need the people to come forward. Okay? Come on, mankind, let's go. Let's reassemble the people. So this is my website over here, kirkslawcorner.com. Thank you, Miles, for building this sucker and maintaining this thing. Now, up here in the upper left-hand corner on the homepage, kirkslawcorner.com. Facebook page link, Telegram, Patreon, YouTube, Rumble, and X. Okay, that's what I have out here for the social media, which broadcasting live right now on Facebook, Telegram, YouTube, Rumble. X put the kibosh on that. It's funny, I did, 4 or 5 lives, and then all of a sudden, boom, I got shut down. So, this is my website here, and that's where I'm broadcasting live right now on these 4 different platforms. So you can watch live every Monday night right here. Wednesday nights, I have a workshop, Wednesday night workshop through Patreon. That's Tier 3. You have to sign up for Tier 3. Then you have those looking for one-on-one time with me. You want some education and help with something? That's Tier 4. Tier 1 and Tier 2 are basically donations. Thank you for your support. Everybody on Patreon, thank you very much for your support. Now it's also down here, right here. Join Kirk on Patreon for Wednesday Night Workshop. That'll take you right to Patreon as well. Now, I still don't have any kind of way of accepting digital donations, so I'm asking people to sign up through Patreon. Tier 1's $5 a month, Tier 2 is $10 a month. If you don't want to do that and still want to help support me, support what we got going on over here, you can send postal money orders, regular money orders, cash wrapped in aluminum foil over to me at the office, 6477 West Fairview Avenue, Suite G, Boise, Idaho 83704. So I greatly appreciate those that have made donations and have helped supported. Thank you all for being here. We need to get the people reassembled. We need to relearn the law. Real law. Common law, laws of nature, fundamental law. Okay? So, this is what needs to happen, folks. We have to reassemble government de jure. All political power is inherent in the people. This stuff isn't going to fix itself. It's going to have to be done by the people. Of the people, by the people, for the people. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck in limbo under martial law. How's that been treating us so far? Pretty crappy. So, let's do it, folks. Let's do it. Let's reassemble. Let's come together, peaceably assemble, and take back our power. End this tyranny. All right? God bless you all out there. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for your kind words and support, your love and kindness, and your prayers. I can tell you, I felt when you folks were initially praying there the other night, I actually felt good, really good there for a few hours. I'm like, holy crap. Thought I was like almost instantly over it, and then, well. But I could definitely feel it. So, again, thank you all for those that prayed for me, and again, God bless. Much love, everybody. We'll see you Wednesday night. Those in Patreon for Wednesday night workshop. Thursday night, we'll see you over there on the National Assembly call.